Hey everyone, just want to encourage you to find us on your listening platform and give us a rating. Anywhere you listen to that has a rating system, go on over and give us a rating and maybe leave us a review. Let us know your thoughts. These ratings really do help. Thank you so much for listening. On to this week's episode.
Hey, Nicole. Oh, wait, she's not here. Eddie. Nope, he's not here either. He's not here for this cold open. Guys, it's just me today for the cold open. And let me tell you, it is a lot harder than it seems to do a cold open by yourself because you are just talking and getting nothing from no one. But anyway, I digress. Today, we're going to be talking about the box office darling Deadpool and Wolverine, starring Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman. When we decided to do this episode, we were not 100% sure if this qualifies as a remake or a revival. We just knew that this will probably get us listens, so that's kind of why we did it. And I think we have a solid argument as to why this qualifies for this podcast. And don't worry, it's not just going to be me talking into the ether for an hour plus. I will be joined by Eddie Z and a very extra special guest. And yeah, that's it. Before we begin, I do want to let you all know that we will be presenting at FlameCon on Saturday, the 17th. We will be in room A at 6:30 p.m. Please come out and join us if you're going to go to FlameCon. We will be having a very interesting conversation about diversity, especially when it comes to remakes and reboots and revivals. So we hope you can join us. You can get your tickets at flamecon.com. I guess that's it. So it's just me. So I'm Rolando, and this is Remakes, Reboots, and Revivals, an original podcast about unoriginality. So as we mentioned in the cold open, Nicole will not be joining us, but do not fear because we will still have a woman's perspective on the show because we have none other than the one and only MacKenzie Green.
Hello, I'm here. The person that keeps inserting themselves into the show is back.
Oh, believe me.
We love it. We love it.
Not only do we love it, but we need it because
I know
Nicole was going to foo-foo all over this movie.
Oh, you know
I
she
could
was.
Tell.
Yeah.
And I'm right now, I'm in the middle, right? Eddie has been trying to convince me it was a good movie since we last seen it. Maybe you could also do some convincing.
I think I might be on Eddie's side for this.
Okay, all right. So we'll see about this. So yes, audience, as usually we do cover remakes, reboots, or revivals. This is in that weird, we're not sure what it is phase because
it's in the void, if you will.
It is. It is very much quite in the void because Deadpool Wolverine definitely revives a franchise that we thought was over, at least, and was going to get rebooted by Marvel. That is the X-Men franchise, specifically Hugh Jackman's Wolverine character, who got like a great send-off in Logan. He has been revived and now introduced into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? So it's just interesting times. And of course, we thought of none other than MacKenzie Green for this. But MacKenzie, before we begin, I wanted to ask you, I know that you saw Twisters. That was the last episode we covered. We should have had you on. What were your thoughts on it?
I mean, that was the most insane movie I've ever watched. It was so silly. It is a genre of movie that I realized we missed. So Twister was my first PG-13 movie. I remember every detail vividly about that experience. And what is so funny about Twisters is sitting in that theater, I was like, oh, this is why these movies killed. Like, this is that genre of movie where like there's like sexiness but no kissing and no sex scenes. There's like danger but nobody dies. Like they're like, and the people that do die are people you never met. So you're kind of like, okay, bye, stranger. Or you're like, you deserved it. You didn't get down in the bunker with them. Like, it's just such a I was like, oh, this is a movie thing that has been missing, is like the PG-13 like action-y film.
Yes, and it's been desperately missed because I mean, I remember when we saw Top Gun Maverick, that was another one where it's just like, this is hitting a chord that I didn't know I needed until we got it.
And then I'm just obsessed with the fact that Glenn Powell has chemistry with everyone. I mean, we're talking from like the dude who's the storm chaser who lights all the explosives to like actual storms themselves. You're just like, what a movie star. Like, I was like, I now get why Tom Cruise is like, I'm going to be friends with him because he's here to take my job. So I'm just going to follow him everywhere.
And yeah, no, I mean, it was great cast. I'm still on the fence whether or not I think Glenn Powell's hot. I think body,
yeah,
amazing.
Yeah.
The face for some reason just doesn't do it for me. I actually prefer Brandon Perea's face.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Don't even get me started. Also, I'm obsessed with the fact that that movie very smartly, because you know how people are like, go woke, go broke, is the fact that this movie very slyly was like, guess what? Glenn Powell is a man from Arkansas. His whole team is made up of people of color and queer people, but we're never going to acknowledge it. We're never going to say anything.
Yeah.
Like Brandon Perea's character, full good old boy, like greasy hat, like, hey, ho, get her done. Like full Larry the Cable Guy geesh. We're never going to talk about it. We're never going to discuss the fact that he's kind of brown, that there's like a lesbian talking about how to like weld together steel. We're never going to address it. We're just going to let you be like, wow, the smartest man on his team. And then for anybody who's a person of color is like, huh, the smartest man on his storm chasing team is this black man out of no, like, and the fact that they go with like, nobody went to school. We're all just making it happen. And then on the other side, you have Anthony Ramos's team is just like a bunch of white guys with PhDs. Never addressed. It's never said, but you're like, this is smart. Okay.
Yeah, it was.
I see what you're doing.
Truly smart. When we talked about it last time, I think we were questioning whose team we want to be on. And I was just like, oh, the storm chasers. They look like me.
Yeah.
I would fit.
Yes. Like all of a sudden I was like, oh, I'm into this vibe. Like we started it and I was like, this is kind of stupid. Like, what are we doing? And then it got going and I was like, am I on Glenn Powell's team? Oh my God.
I was so surprised. I thought we were supposed to hate them. And then by the end, I'm just like,
I wasn't sure how to feel about them.
It was very smart. I'm like, everybody on that team, brilliant. Brilliant all around. I was like so smart to have Anthony Ramos jump ship and join them. I was like, look at this. Yeah. It's the We Are the World Storm Tracers. Love to see it.
Well, I just loved more so that we were getting a little challengers because I felt there was a little love triangle going on towards the end of it.
I did too. That moment when they're both saving her and then they like look at each other. Again, Glenn Powell has chemistry with everyone.
Truly,
I was like, are you two a thing?
Because
I'm into this story.
Yeah.
More so.
Yeah. I was like, I want you two to ride off in the sunset. And then Daisy's like, be happy. Like,
so I'm glad we're on the same boat. Let's see if we can get on the same boat for Deadpool Wolverine. So Deadpool Wolverine, pre-production for this film actually began as early as 2016 when the Deadpool 2 film had just, finished its run. And production was, I think actually pre-production went on hold because of the merger with 20th Century Fox. And then eventually Disney decided, okay, we are going to move forward with Deadpool. They were trying to figure out how to get him included in the franchise because this would have been an easy solve for, the Marvel Cinematic Universe to just bring in a very beloved, very well-performing character into their roster. Especially since by now Wolverine was dead, so they don't have Hugh Jackman to fall back on, except here's a twist. Somehow, some way, they got Hugh Jackman back. Yeah. And, death be damned. He's here. And with that, we also got a really touching goodbye to 20th Century Fox's franchise that, as I was watching the movie, I'm just like, I wasn't aware how much of these were part of me growing up. Like, I actually did watch a lot of these.
Yeah. Well, I think what's funny is, this is a shameful nerd confession to make, is I have been rocking with Marvel movies for quite some time. Like, we'll get into it later, but everybody who has ever talked to me about Marvel has heard me screaming from the rooftops about Blade is Marvel Daddy from the beginning. He begat everyone. So, it's funny when I love these films, I watch the X-Men, all that stuff. Around the same time that the MCU started is when the Sony Fox side of Marvel films got weird. And I was like, So when Logan happened, I think that was Age of Ultron era.
Yeah.
I was like, well, F you guys. I don't care. I'm never going to go see it. Because people kept being like, it's so sad. It's emotional. It's a farewell to Hugh Jackman. And I was like, I don't care. I'm not going to go see it. I don't want this movie. So I never saw Logan. Fully aware of the plot of Logan, fully aware of what happened, but I was like, you're not getting my money, Fox. I don't care what you do over there. I'm only going to see what Kevin Feige's got. So it was very funny to me when like that, I think it was the Super Bowl commercial where Ryan's like sitting on the sofa and then Hugh Jackman walks through and he's like, oh, hey, Hugh, do you want to do another, you want to be Wolverine again? And he's like, yeah, sure. And like goes up the stairs. And I was kind of like, isn't that man supposed to be dead? And I was like, I don't know. Maybe something happened in that movie where like he's not really dead. So you can imagine my hilarity to go to the movie and in the first 5 minutes, it's just a full-on skeleton, just a corpse. And I was like, oh, so he did really die in that film. What is happening in here? So like the opening was like a moment where I was like, oh, I should have probably watched Logan. But like obviously everything else I like knew and was fully aware of.
Yeah. I mean, Logan was a good film.
Yeah.
I make fun of my friend. He swears that this is not true, but he did name his son Logan the year the movie came out.
Oh, there's so many people.
So many Logans.
Like apparently, I think it was one of the producers or the costume designer or something. Like Hugh Jackman has told the story about how the guy was like, when he came out in the suit that the guy cried and he was like, I just need you to understand, like I named my son Logan after this character. And he was like, so seeing you in this costume has truly shaken me to my core. And I was like, all right, nerds.
I want to get back to the costume for sure because I have thoughts. But yeah, no, Logan, like I remember when Logan did come out, right? Because Nicole, I feel like part of the reason why she didn't want to be on this episode is because she knew there's so much to
She was like,
unpack.
there's gonna be so much Marvel talk. She was like, and there's like Marvel talk that like predates like what I even know to be the MCU. Like, ew, get out of here.
I mean, I didn't know how far back we were going to have to go. Like, I wasn't aware Blade was going to be involved until we saw Wesley Snipes on screen. But when it came to Logan, I thought it was actually a really touching goodbye for this character. I thought we got to see Hugh Jackman at his finest as Logan, as Wolverine, and it was like a really nice goodbye, a send off.
I was gonna say, like one of my favorite kind of jokes that came out of Deadpool 2, out of 1 and 2, was kind of this constant joke that Deadpool was always saying about like, oh, why is it whenever I come to Professor Xavier's school, like it's only you two who are ever here. And even that scene in Deadpool 2 where he like is talking to Megasonic Warteen and like somebody opens the door behind him and it's like Evan Peters, like that whole, like Jennifer Lawrence, that whole cast is in the room and you're like, like, that is hilarious. Like, because the fact that he just keeps being like, it's so interesting when I come here, it's never anybody else, it's always just you two, how come nobody else is ever at this school? And I was like, I love that. Like, I love that this is the running joke that like nobody else is ever here. So I thought the joke in Deadpool and Wolverine was just you're gonna get the same people you always get, and like, oh, by the way, Wolverine is here. So I was like, oh, okay, all right.
And you know what? Instead, they delivered some other goodies because let me tell you, some of the stunt cameos that they did in this film were something I didn't realize I needed until I saw it. And
I have affectionately told people, because you guys have probably seen the discourse online where it's like the fanboys and girls are like, it was great, and then people who don't follow any of this will be like, I'm gonna go. There's so much great word of mouth hype. I have told every single person in my life that knows I love these movies and doesn't follow them, I'm like, don't go see this movie. This movie will make no sense to you. This movie is a inside joke for people that have been watching these films for like 20 plus years. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, it truly is. And actually this is something that I've heard you talk about before on the Taylor Stricker Show. Everyone subscribe.
Yes, go subscribe, guys.
One of my favorite shows. But I've heard you talk about this before, right? Which is just like the problem with Marvel at the moment is how convoluted the storylines have gotten because of all the shows. Because not that I'm fair, I actually do like Marvel movies in general, but I realize I haven't seen many of the Marvel movies as of late, or the TV shows. So when we're back to the TVA and we're getting some plot points, I'm just like, oh, maybe this is a little bit of a problem when it comes to movies.
Yeah, like, it's like, and I think what makes it funny, like I tell friends who are like, I'm curious about this thing. Again, I'm like, if you don't follow this, don't go see this movie. You will be so mad. You will be confused. Like, the theater I was in, it was very clear these were casual MCU movie fans who found themselves in a room with a woman who was screaming at the top of her lungs at jokes and moments that they were like, huh? Like, I went at 6 p.m. on a Thursday. That is not the crowd that is like ready to scream and yell and throw popcorn and celebrate. It's like when I went to see No Way Home with my parents at like 12 noon on a Saturday. That theater was dead silent. I was like standing up screaming. Like, you know, there's one man in the back who's like, I'm trying to take a nap. Shut up. Like,
yeah.
It's like this movie is so, it's like, it is perfect for the people that have been here. Also, people like yourself, Rolando, that are like, this is so convoluted. Because the character is like, hey, just so you know, all of this is so convoluted and confusing.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody can keep up with what's happening here.
Yeah.
Nobody know. Who are you? Oh, how convenient. You can just prune whoever you want off the top. Like, it works for somebody, I feel like, who's at your level of Marvel, Rolando, who's like, I loved it all the way through to the Infinity Saga. You know, WandaVision, a revelation. We loved Falcon and Winter Soldier, but then they're like, all right, when we got to like the Midnight Monster thing, I was like, I'll see you guys later. Call me when it gets relevant.
Is that the werewolf one?
Yeah, the werewolf after dark.
I haven't even seen that.
That's
one.
what I'm saying. So like, I feel like it's like, if you're somebody who's like, never saw the werewolf, what the hell are you talking? It's the perfect for that Marvel fan that's been like, I know there were movies, I know there were things.
Like, I'm aware of the TVA.
Yeah,
I left off. I haven't finished season 2 of Loki, so I don't know where we stand.
Like, it's perfect for like my buddy who hosted The Carpet, James, who's brilliant and lovely. He hosted but like, he had a perfect example where he was just like, girl, quantum, whatever. Like, when he has to prep for these carpets, he's like, I got to read these books on like TVA, quantum physics. People are going through different timelines, and he was like, girl, what? And I was like, this is the movie for that crowd.
Yeah. I mean, and you know what? Let's get into a little bit of plot here, because the plot actually confused me just a little bit from the very beginning.
The plot is hella confusing. Even when they were in the void, I said, when did the woods are in the void?
I was more confused. It started off, correct me if I'm wrong, it started off with 616,
yes,
though, right?
We were in 616.
Yes.
That's not the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or is it?
No, this is...
Well,
okay, yes, go ahead, Eddie, because this is like...
So I know that to be the primary comic universe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where like all the comic books take place 616, and then we have things that branch off to other universes. You know, we have Ultra X-Men, stuff like that, right? So we have 616. Now the confusing part is that I don't think that's the MCU though,
because Iman Vellani, who plays Kamala,
plays
Miss Marvel, she has said that on she got in trouble at the Miss Marvel premiere with the fanboys because she was like, this isn't 616. I don't care what Kevin Feige says. He's wrong. He's lying. I know what I'm talking about. Like, and I remember people like lost it on Twitter because they were like, oh, you think you know? So I loved that the movie was like, hey, I'm going to 616 to pitch myself as an Avenger. They're like, get the hell out of here. And then the next scene is like 1099 or something.
Yeah, so that's why I was confused. I'm just like, wait, so there's the effects of 616. Is that like something that happened in all the universes and we just happen to be in this one? And now we're in 10,000, which is, you know, things branch off. I get that. Yeah. That was my only point of confusion. But anyway, yes, as MacKenzie had mentioned, Wade Wilson goes and meets with their version of like will be Kevin Feige, but it was Jon Favreau.
Yeah.
And the chauffeur for Tony Stark. Yep. And he's trying to get a role with the Avengers, and they turn him down because, as he puts it, you need to be here, but to be here, you need to be needed, something like that, right?
Yeah.
To that effect. I butchered that.
Again, the movie has a lot of like meta things. Like you said, he meets with Jon Favreau, who's like that universe's Kevin Feige. But I'm also like, people forget Iron Man kicked off at Paramount with Kevin Feige and Robert Downey Jr. being like, hey, we have an idea for a movie. So like, technically he was at one point the Kevin Feige of the MCU before Kevin Feige really got involved. Like, he was the one that was like, I want to make an Iron Man movie. And people were like,
he directed, right?
Yeah, and people were like, the dude from Swingers wants to make a superhero movie? Oh, okay, if you really want to.
Yeah, I forgot that he directed. Yeah, but yes, so yes. As he is like in some form or way, he's for sure the god. Oh, yeah. Eddie, you have something to say?
All right, little fast research
great.
here.
Go for it.
Okay. Originally, this was Earth 19999.
Okay.
Right? And then it's been hinted throughout the different movies that this was 616. So it's finally been changed, and it's now official 616.
Oh, so official
for the so now the MCU now recognize itself as 616.
Oh, interesting.
This is 616, but it started out as 19999.
Which is where most of the movie takes place, right?
Yeah, most of the movie takes place, and then now there's been the switch.
Interesting. But no,
that.
now that's even more confusing because of what happens, what transpires as the film continues. So yes, Wade Wilson gets turned down, and now we're in, what is it, 1999?
I think so.
We are in another
we're in another universe
where Wade Wilson is now a used car salesman, and he has found his version of family, and he comes to find out that it's going to be taken away because this universe is going to be erased from existence, because in this universe their
anchor being.
The anchor being has died and is going to cause chaos, and the TVA has come in and decided we're just going to erase you guys just to make it simpler. Despite the fact that he said it could be thousands of years. I'm just like, that's like a lot of lifetimes.
Like, I'm low-key obsessed with now. I'm deeply obsessed with the silliness on like threads of who is the anchor being of this universe and what happened.
My favorite one was Madeline. But not with the Y.
Madeline. Yeah, Madeline with a Y, not with an I. When she would spell her
that's
name.
who I saw as the anchor being. I'm just like, you know what? I could get behind this. She is a good anchor being.
See, I'm more like in our current. I'm like, is Betty White our anchor being? Is that what happened? Was it Prince? Was it like?
That's true. David Bowie. I mean, after he did pass away,
I know.
Shit hit the fan. So
listen, that's what I'm saying. Like sometimes I'm like, who's the anchor being? What messed it up? What do we need to do? Who do we need to go get back?
So he comes to find out that because Wolverine is dead, their existence is going to be erased. However, he's given a chance to work outside the boundaries with the TVA, and eventually,
I kind of love that.
The
technically, they don't even tell him yes. Like they're just kind of like, we're gonna make you like a part. Yeah, it's like we're gonna make you an Avenger. We're gonna do all this stuff, and like again, in true Wade form, like he listens to none of the instructions. His ADHD is raging, and he's like, "Oh, so they want me to go look for a new anchor being? Got it. Cool, clear." And you're like, Wade, let's wait. Let's ask questions. Let's clarify if this is what they wanted you to do.
Yeah, typical man. You know what I mean? Speaking as a man, because I do that all the time.
I know.
So
right? There's nothing funnier than whenever somebody like my cousin will do that. He'll be like, "Men, am I right?" And I'm like, "Okay, all right, man."
So as MacKenzie mentioned, because he knows his universe is about to be erased, including his friends and family, he decides to go and try to find a replacement Wolverine. We get a nice montage of all these different Wolverines, including a very comic book accurate Wolverine height.
That is my favorite.
It was a good one.
It was a good one. Again, that's why I say this is a movie that if you don't follow these things, don't go see it. Because everybody in my theater was like tee-hee-heeing because they're like, oh, a short Hugh Jackman, that's so silly. I'm tee-hee-heeing because I'm like, that's what Wolverine's supposed to look like.
Exactly.
He's supposed to be a short king who's ready to scrap at any moment. I was like, he's supposed to be a tiny bobcat of a human. So I was like, that's funny. But then again, you're like, oh, I don't think we're all laughing at the same thing.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
I think you guys are just laughing at the sight gag. Yeah,
exactly.
And I'm laughing because I'm like, that's what he's supposed to look like.
One of the other Wolverines we also get was a Henry Cavill playing Wolverine,
which I didn't know I needed until that moment.
I mean,
wet dreams.
I was like, pause.
Yeah. I love the fact that as he's approaching him, even Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool keeps being like, is this it? Is this what we've all been waiting for? Is the moment finally arrived? And when he like taps him and he turns around, again, my theater, when he's like, the cavalry has arrived. Nobody got it. Again, I'm screaming, I'm yelling, I'm cackling. The woman next to me, confused as hell, doesn't know why this is happening.
Yeah. My favorite thing about it, though, is at least the discourse that I've seen online in the film community has been about, is this a joke? Are they poking fun at DC for not being able to keep someone as it's iconic.
It's pretty obvious they
Superman,
are.
Yeah.
I mean, it's apparent. The character says, "We will treat you the way you deserve to be treated."
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
He says, "We will take care of you the way you deserve to be taken care of. We will never squander this opportunity like they did down the street."
I was too busy howling at the fact that
that's what I'm saying.
Henry Cavill was in that tight tank top looking.
Also, here's the thing I missed, and shout out to Marvel Threads. I completely missed that he made his claws come out by doing that double punch from Mission Impossible.
Oh, I didn't even see that. That's so funny.
So you know that insane thing where he like locked and loaded his arms? He does that to get his claws out. And I was like, and somebody pointed that out on Threads, and I was like, bless you. You're a mensch. Good for you.
I'll limit this. Like,
this is why I got to see this movie again.
This is the thing.
I have to see this.
I will say, like,
I have to see this movie again.
This movie, I have my complaints about it, but I think when it comes to cameos, when it comes to like jokes, this is where the movie shines.
That's why I
sure.
say it's an inside joke. I'm like, if you're going for plot, if you're going for structure, if you're going for, I'm like, don't go to this. You'll be mad. You'll be like, who? What the hell? Who are these people? But like, if you're going for a tee-hee-hee, if you're like, I want to kiki with all my buddies who've been here for a long time, it's the perfect movie.
Yep. Yeah, great. I agree. You're warming me up to the film.
I'm telling you, it makes no sense to anybody outside of this Marvel bubble. And otherwise, I'm like, it's a great movie.
So eventually, Wade will find a Wolverine, and it's a Wolverine who's down on his luck. He's a little bit melancholy, a lot melancholy, depressed, we might even say.
Oh, yeah.
And he takes him to the TVA. The TVA is just like, this is the worst of the Wolverines. You can't just replace I forgot the word already.
An anchor being. Yeah.
Anchor being.
You can't replace an anchor being. That's not the way it works.
And they both get eliminated and sent to the void, where then from there we get the main plot point, which is going to be trying to get back home, or at least to the TVA, so we can try to restore a version of balance and stuff. And
absolutely.
Along the way, we will meet many we thought dead 20th Century Fox characters, many cameos that we'll talk about now. But
some people were really butthurt about the fact when they fell into the void that the Fox logo was in the void.
Why?
I don't know. I'm like, is everybody okay? Like people were like, that's so unfair. I'm like, let's be very clear.
Disney bought it.
Yeah, these studios, I'm like, no, that's Disney's property. If they want to put it in the sand and make fun of it, they can. They own it. They're like, haha, yeah.
Of course,
we bought this.
Do not put it past Disney to just piss on the corpses of that they taken down.
Literally.
You know what I mean?
They're like, we own everything. They're like, we probably own the theater you're sitting in right now. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, no, I didn't know that was something that people were upset about.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it is ultimately going to be about Wade and Wolverine trying to get back home, and their main adversary will become Charles Xavier's sister.
Twin sister, Cassandra Nova.
She too has psychic abilities. She is kind of the queen of this void world. It's a deal that she cut with the TVA to leave her alone, and in doing so, she finds out that they were about to betray her, so she decides to take it upon herself to just erase all existence.
I do have to say, on the costume of it all, when he goes to get this particular Wolverine and like opens the top of his shirt, he's like, ooh, baby. All right, this one isn't afraid to be a superhero. And like, again, as somebody who loved X-Men 97, it's like, you're like, oh, this is funny. This is great. And because, again, I used to think that all the time when I watched the movies. When I watched the Fox X-Men movies, it was like, oh, everybody's wearing a costume except Wolverine, who's got on a tank top and jeans, no matter where they're going.
This is true, yes.
Okay.
But what's so funny, because I mean, the joke was made in X-Men 97, right? Which is just like, what do you think? We're going to wear a black leather? But I remember when the X-Men movies came out, like that was groundbreaking. It's just like, they're not in costumes. We're making this like a grounded, real superhero movie, and they're not in these silly costumes, because sometimes, and that's the thing. This is, I think, where
yellow spandex.
There is like this,
but
like,
I think
weirdness.
people have to understand, like the Fox era of superhero films, and again, we'll get to Blade later, but like superhero movies are where stars went to have their careers die. Like if you wanted to end your career, like put a nice little period at the end of it and get a chance to dress up like Superman or Batman, or who, it was like, not even Batman, those are Warner Brothers, but it was like you came over and you did these, like you did Howard the Duck, you did Flash, like you did these awful films, and then it was like, thank you so much, there's the door, we will never see you again, it's a joke. And so like when the Fox era came around, like you said, they were like, we're gonna ground these, we're gonna go out and get Oscar winner Halle Berry, we're gonna go get like, you know, Alan Cummings to play
Alfred Molina.
Yeah, like we're gonna do it, and you guys are gonna have your minds blown. And I think still people were kind of like, oh, okay, like I kind of get what's happening here. And then all of a sudden, Bob Iger goes and buys it and goes, I'm actually going to make silly superhero movies. They're actually going to be in tights and all the things. And it's going to be as cheesy as you think it is. Like, I'm going to fully lean in.
But even to that point, even when Disney did take the mantle of these superheroes, the costuming was always a point of contention, right? Because they were never the most comic accurate costumes.
No.
They were always still trying to look a little bit more cinematic. Like,
we're
made
looking
for
at
the
you,
movie.
Elizabeth Olsen.
Yes, exactly. And they never wore like those bright colors because sometimes, I guess, in the tonality of the films, they just don't work out. In this case, I mean, this is where this comic accurate yellow outfit that Hugh Jackman was wearing is just an interesting thing to see because it's just like you can see visually why it looks so silly. It just does look silly.
It does. There are moments where you're like, oh, I see why bringing a cartoon to the real world so silly. Beyond silly.
Sometimes it doesn't work. In this case, because of the tone of the film, it works out. But now at least this gives us a visual representation of like why Hollywood always tries to like tone down these costumes so they don't look so silly. Because if
but
you're
I'll
trying
be honest, like WandaVision kind of nodded at that with the Halloween episode when she came down the stairs in the comic accurate outfit. You were like, oh, that is silly.
Yeah, exactly.
Like these bright tights, this bright bodysuit, this head thing. Like, oh, that does look weird. I'm glad they put you in a coat with a little crown on your head and like you're just in leather.
Yeah, exactly. And so I mean, that's overall the plot of the film. I mean, let's just get into it. Like, what did we love? What did we not like? I mean, can I start off with what I loved?
No, please go for it.
I'm going to go
for what you love.
For me, it was Channing Tatum. I don't remember him that much in Wolverine Origins, right? He was in the Origins Wolverine film as Gambit.
He never got to bring any of this to the
so he didn't have the accent, right? I just don't remember him. He was very not memorable because he also didn't have the costume. Here, he had an accent that I don't know if he was intentionally bad at doing accents or if he just is a bad actor.
In defense of Channing Tatum, I don't think most people know what Cajun Creole sounds like.
I mean,
I was like, that's what Cajun sounds like.
Does it really?
Yes. Like,
no way. So I thought it was diverging. Like, so
that's literally what people think. Cajun people are just like, welcome to the South. No, Cajun people are like speaking with like a weird French and that they really all come from a place where they talking to that. See, it's crazy. I'm not kidding you. I have Cajun.
It's like that guy, that character in True Blood in first season. Yes. I needed subtitles every time he talked because he was adorable and I was like loving it, but I was like, I'm not getting it.
Thank you. Because I truly was like, do people miss what like Ray Boudreaux sound like when people see the Firefly and Princess and the Frog? They're like, oh, that's silly accent on the. I'm like, that's what Cajun people sound. I'm like, y'all, there are people that talk like this stuff.
Okay, so MacKenzie, you tell me, was that a good accent or
no? It was an incredible Cajun. Like
that's okay.
Again,
there we go.
I'm screaming in the theater, losing my mind, being like, "Oh my god, he nailed the accent!" Meanwhile, when Ryan Reynolds was like, "I'm sorry, sweetheart, who's your dialect coach?"
That's what I was laughing. Yes,
yeah, people were laughing because they were like, "Oh, Channing's doing an awful Cajun accent," and I was like, "No, that's literally if you ever try to have a conversation with a Cajun person, it's like talking to a Scotsman. You're like, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Can you write what you're saying? Because I'm lost.
Subtitles,
I know we're both speaking English, but there's no way we're speaking the same genre of English."
But so there we go. So apparently an accurate accent. However, still a wonderful performance because it was just seeing him in the costume, giving that like I knew he wanted to do the Cajun accent, right? Because obviously we had just gotten off of X-Men 87. We know how, at least I have my idea of like how Gambit sounds. For me, this was a little bit just I thought off the mark, but coming off of X-Men 97, I was just like, okay, but you know what? They're trying to give us something, again, comic book accurate as part of the joke here. And that was a great cameo. The other cameo I ended up loving was like, Blade and Elektra Natchios. Like, talk about a surprise. Just not in a million years did I expect Jennifer Garner to return as Elektra for a movie. Like, I thought, especially given her history with like Ben Affleck and that film, I just didn't think it was a thing. It was possible. And here we are.
Also, I don't even know if Channing ever got to even play Gambit, and because I know like the story is the same year they were at Comic-Con debuting the first Deadpool. He was there to be like, I'm making Gambit, and like literally Disney bought Fox and like paused it, so he had a full like pilot season. Like, hey man, just hold on, not yet. And I know I've read interviews where he said like, I have so much trauma from that experience. I've never watched an MCU movie. He was like, they actually make me sad. He was like, I've never watched it. He was like, my daughter wants to watch them and I don't watch them with her. Like other people, like he was like, if I see the actors out, I'm like, great job, man. He's like, I have no idea what happened in their film. And he was like, because I'm so sad about the fact that I never got to make my Gambit movie.
So wait, but he wasn't. Was he not an X-Men? Oh,
no,
I thought he was.
It was like I think there was another actor that played Gambit. Like again, this man had like thought he was going to pull a Ryan Reynolds and be like, Ryan's making Deadpool, I'm making a Gambit film. Here you go. Ryan just got in under the wire.
Yeah.
And like so, literally, like because again, big old dork. The shirt Channing is wearing at Comic-Con this year is a recreation of the shirt he was wearing like 20 years ago when he was there to debut as Gambit.
Oh wow! So
yeah,
there you go.
So like,
speaking, were you at Comic-Con this year?
I wish. No. Oh, so many people were like, "Come to Comic-Con," and I was like, "There are no tickets." I was like, "There are no hotels." I was like, "What am I going to sleep on the street?" I was like, "I'm down with it, but I'm just not living that life to fully sleep on the sidewalk in San Diego and be like, I'm here for the moment."
You wouldn't be alone. I've been to San Diego, and so fortunately, like.
I'm like, meanwhile, I'm sure people will be like, hello, you fit in here. You look crazy.
But yeah, so Jennifer Garner was another cameo. I wasn't expecting. I'm going to toss it to you guys. Like, what did you guys love about this film?
Oh boy. Eddie, do you want to go first? Because I have some unhinged excitement.
Well, I just to bring this up. Well, definitely seeing Wesley Snipes.
Yes.
There.
Yeah.
I was always a big fan of Blade. Love those movies. Really wanted more from that franchise or from Blade. Was into the comic books too. And also that interesting thing that he's on Guinness Book of Record for two things. Definitely for two things. One, for live action, an actor having the longest live action character for 25. So it's like 25 years now. 25 years, 340 days. That he has been
so specific.
And also the longest gap time between reviving first appearance of the character and the latest.
That's such a shady character. Guinness record to have. I'd be like, girl, I don't want that. Take that back. That is so rude.
I wonder if Kelsey Grammer still holds his record for...
You know he does.
Yeah, I think he might for Frasier still, especially now with the revival that just came out. So he might still, for TV at least. I don't know about for...
Because again, at the end of the Marvels, when good old Mr. Kelsey Grammer was there as Beast, again, another movie where I screamed. And again, the theater was like, who is this woman? And again, my love of my love of Blade runs so deep that when my first event for the current job I'm in was to go see the Eternals, I hopped out of my seat and went, yes, at the end of the Eternals when I heard Mahershala Ali's voice.
That's right. Yes, he was the voice that we saw when Jon Snow.
Not Jon Snow. I'm always like, Jon Snow, he's in that movie. And people are like, oh, that's not him.
Yes. Okay, Eddie, continue. So what was the other record? Oh, wait, you said it was like
longest gap. Those two. Longest gap between,
And anything else that you loved?
Definitely to see Gambit. Yeah. To see Tatum's Gambit. I mean, from that particular scene, yeah. And also bringing back, what is it?
Human Torch.
Oh, that's it.
Oh, yeah.
That was the other. Yes.
That was. I was caught off guard on that one. Totally caught off guard. I really thought that was
America.
A Captain America variant.
Oh yeah,
I was ready for it.
True. I really, I thought it was going to be a Captain America also. And then it's just like, oh, they're doing Human Torch. And I have to realize, I'm just like, I forgot he was Human Torch in the Fantastic Four films. It's something I've known, but like, I forgot because we were in a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie that like, oh, that's right. Technically speaking, this is true. This is okay. Yeah. And
so I
canonized it.
Well, Eddie, I want to make sure you're done with your favorite moments before I say.
And X-23.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
getting back X-23. Even though I never said why she ended up there, but
I mean, anything to get Daphne Keane is because I do love Daphne Keane so much. I think she's she's wonderful.
Well, so my favorite moments, I have to say, is obviously Chris. So here's the thing. I'm such a weirdo about Marvel stuff that anytime anybody that's like remotely like related to the world goes silent on social, I'm like, are you in the movie? So like perfect example, Halle Berry. I was like, where are you? Why are you training so hard? For what? what are you doing? Why? Huh? Like, she was very silent. Like, Kerry Washington wasn't posting a lot, and most people may not remember, she was Michael Chiklis's love interest as the Thing in the second Fantastic Four movie. So I was like, they're coming back. Oh,
Good
yeah.
cat.
I'm a big old dork. So, like, truly, I love the Chris Evans cameo because I felt like it told everybody in the theater, this is what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it set the tone of, like, if you thought that was Captain America. And I love the joke around it, right? Like, I love the self-awareness of the character being able to be like, guess what? All those, like, finger-itching fanboys, this is the one that's gonna, like, the fact that Deadpool kept making jokes as Chris Evans was stepping forward, being like, oh, guys, all those basement-dwelling neckbeards, those incel-loving guys are gonna finally get their one true savior. Get ready, everybody, Avengers! And when he said Flame On, I was like, oh, this is the movie we're doing today. This is the movie that's happening. I went so far as to be like, I was like, oh my God, if Michael B. Jordan just comes out of nowhere and accidentally like runs into him, this will be incredible, right? Because the internet was filled with people being like, get ready. These cameos are going to blow your mind. So because that one was what it was, I was kind of like, okay, that was cute, I guess. And the same thing with Henry Cavill. I was like, oh, okay, all right, that's fun. For me, where I lost my mind was the Blade cameo because I like those were the movies my grandfather took me to go see. My mom and my grandmother were with us. They did not care, had no idea. They would sleep through the whole thing. Like, not too long ago, I was like explaining to my mom the Blade movies. I even did my podcast producer Rob's show, like talking about Blade 2. And I was like, yeah, I saw these movies and recently told my mom what they were about. And she was like, I was letting a child see movies with like vampires at a rave, like having sex and blood. And I was like, yup, you guys went to sleep and you had no clue. That's what I was watching with Granddaddy. So like, I'm also one of those people that has been screaming for years. Like I said, superhero movies are where your career went to die. Then all of a sudden, Wesley Snipes made the dopest superhero trilogy that anybody had ever seen. Blade 2 is a masterpiece. 3 kind of puttered out.
3 did putter out, which I forgot Ryan Reynolds was in.
Yes, which is where he played Deadpool, but like a really silly version that at the time I was like, what am I watching?
Yeah.
And that was around the time that people were like, hey, Paramount's making an Iron Man movie. And I was like, ugh, the genre's dead. I hate it here. This is awful. And then somebody was like, oh, but Halle Berry's playing Storm. And I was like, okay, well, I'll watch these, I guess. And then that's when I was like, I love this whole film franchise. But like that Wesley Snipes cameo, because again, Jennifer Gardner, I was like, oh, cool. Did not care for Elektra and Daredevil, to be quite honest. I was like, oh, that's nice. Good for her. But because of her appearance, I was like, if like Michael Fassbender comes through this door or like any of them, I'm going to lose my mind. So when that music dropped, that techno sound dropped, I said, be still my beating heart. And I literally shot up out of my chair and yelled again. And just told you, the whole theater was like, is that woman well? Is she a danger to us? Like, I was just like, how are people not screaming? Like, this is amazing. And then again, when Channing Tatum came in, I was like, oh my God, I'm so, like, I got emotional for him. I was like, he finally gets his moment. And I just thought, like, the jokes where the character was like, I think I've always lived on the void. I don't think I ever lived any. Like, I thought that character I loved because he got to, like, say out loud
the thing,
his issues. Yeah, the thing where he was like, I think I'm going to get to make a name for myself today. And I was like, okay, I love this. Or the Wesley Snipes joke when he said, there's only ever going to be one Blade. And then Ryan Reynolds looks directly into camera. And I was like, that was
that's again. That's so funny. So yeah, I can't believe I totally just had like a fake memory of just like, yeah, Channing Tatum, he was in Wolverine Origins. So
everybody genuinely like I thought he played this character before, and I was like, no, he literally has been waiting all these years. But and then the one cameo that wasn't really a cameo, but I felt like it was a cameo, was the Doctor Strange when she was like, a magician came here once and I killed him, and then she took out his ring and like made the portal. Obsessed. And then I think the last cameos I adored, but most people are like, what, is Lady Pool, Kid Pool, and Baby Pool, because that's Ryan's wife, his baby, and his daughter.
So I had saw those rumors. Were those really?
Those really his kids.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I mean, you know,
Yeah, but I
how do
kind
you-
of love the
how do you-
idea that like your kid gets to come to work and like curse. Like, you know, she got to be in an ADR booth and be like, "You fucking idiot," and then it's like, "Daddy, I said a bad word."
I can't believe. But why? I mean, you have Blake Lively. Why not show her face?
I just thought that was. Yeah, I thought that part was really funny. That at no point was it like, oh, let me, because he
so
makes
obvious that it was
jokes.
gonna be her. Yeah,
Because he makes jokes where he's like, oh, the human body has 317 bones, 308 when I'm watching Gossip Girl. Like, he makes so many Blake Lively jokes that I was like, just take the mask off.
You know what? I just realized that, and now
that's so cute. Wait a minute, I told that one went over my head.
I guess I'm gonna have to rewatch this.
I'm telling you, it's one of those movies where I'm like, I'm probably gonna end up rewatching this casually.
If you told Taylor Strecker this, she probably will now watch it just to see Blake Lively.
Oh yeah, that's the funny part. I was like, the amount of people I knew who were like, again, Rolando knows how I feel about this, but the amount of DMs I got when I was leaving the movie where people were like, is Taylor Swift in it? And I was like, no.
What?
And that's why I enjoyed it. You're welcome.
I will say, Lady Pool was cute.
Pool was cute.
I like those like variants. Now, here's a question: why didn't for those variants, right? Because we got like a moment similar to like in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, where we see all these different types of Deadpools. Yeah. And my question was, why didn't we get like a version of Wade from the Blade series? I
thought that was going to happen too.
Yeah, especially since Blade was there.
Yeah, when he kept saying all these Deadpool variants were coming, I thought the really stupid variant of his from Blade 3 was coming, and I thought the joke was going to be like they all turn around and kill him.
Yeah, something like that. That seems like a missed opportunity.
But I was just, but I guess technically he like went back and killed him. Remember in Deadpool 2, he like went back and chopped his own head off.
Yes. Okay, so maybe I guess there is some canon.
Yeah, I'm sure he was like, he was probably like, he's like, we already did that sight gag. Meanwhile, people are like, girl, I don't remember.
Good catch. Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is Hugh Jackman and reprising his role as Wolverine. First thing I just want to say, that X-Man, his body is tea.
Oh my
good Lord.
The jokes in there about why he still had his clothes on, hilarious. That moment when he said something where he's like, usually this one has his shirt off, but you know, because of the divorce. Like that made me giggle. And I really did go like, oh, Hugh's getting older. He doesn't want to. He doesn't want to do all this. And I respect that, Hugh. You have bodily autonomy. Zac Efron said it's really hard on a man's body to live up to this. So I was just like, I love that for you, Hugh. And then truly, when they were holding hands and the whole thing came, I said, look at you. Look at you, Hugh. I'm proud of you.
I too felt bad for Hugh Jackman because I'm just like, God, the amount of like how much money you get thrown at you for you to put your body through that, because it is like, believe me, just someone who's lost like some 30 odd pounds. It's just like, I can only imagine what it's like to stay
when he said on Fallon, because he said this on Fallon, he was like, I have to eat 6,000 calories, and he was like, but it's not the fun 6,000 calories.
No, it has to be lean.
But what he said is that I guess Sean Levy had asked him like, do you want to film this shirtless scene at the start of the film, like at the start of filming? And he was like, no, let's save it for the end of filming. Well, apparently the strike happened in there. So where Hugh like initially was like, oh, I thought I was only going to have to maintain this for a few months. He was like, next thing I knew, there are now months and months. And he was like, we had like one last thing left. And he was like, so I was going through the strike trying to maintain my Wolverine shape so that I could be ready for this scene. And I was like, this poor man.
Poor guy.
I was like, this poor man is trying to do the Music Man. Meanwhile, he's like backstage with Sutton Foster being like, get on my back, Sutton. I'll just keep doing push-ups. Like, I was like, this poor man.
That's truly what I felt most bad for, because also as the movie ended, it kind of left it open. It's just like, we might see him again. So I think he's under that Disney contract. He's under that Disney boot.
I did, because I really was like, there's no way they're going to make these two stay in the MCU. There's no way they're going to make Hugh. So that moment when when he was like, he has risen again. I am a devout Christian. I love a good crucifixion joke. I don't know why. My mom and I think it's like the funniest thing ever. So when he was like, he has risen, baby girl, I was like, I had the same reaction you did, Rolando, which was, oh no, poor Hugh Jackman. He's never going to be free of having to be this on it.
Yeah, truly. And I mean, look, I get it. Money talks, but there's certain points where I'm just like, I don't know how much money you could pay me to just try to stay lean. Like, there's just, I mean, best part, I mean, Chris Evans has talked about it too, right? Like, he was, the first thing he did when he was offered the Marvel contract was just like, I'm gonna not work out.
Yeah.
Like,
I thought that was like and I always think that's because I love Welcome to Wrexham. I love It's Always Sunny. Like, I love Rob McElhenney. And he actually made a cameo as one of the TVA agents, but you never see his face.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, like he joked about like, I flew 6,000 miles to be in the movie with Ryan. And he was like, I hope people know I'm in it. And like, of course, it's like the joke is none of us know. But he talked about that on Sunny when he had to like get in crazy shape. He was like, I finally got to do it because there's an episode of him, Kumail Nanjiani, and Dak Shepard talking about like getting in shape. And he was like, oh no, I hired the Marvel people. And he was like, I don't know what I thought it was. And he was like, but what it really was is the most like torturous experience of my life. Like, he was like, my wife didn't want to be around me. She was like, you look gross now. Like, who is this hot for? Like, you passed like attractive to women. You're now in a place where you're like muscularly hot to men.
Yes.
It was like, this is not for me, Rob. And so like there was a brief moment where I was just like, the idea of like Hugh Jackman being like, I am yoked up. I am fully in this house by myself. What the shit is going on? Like, help me, get me out of here.
That's my favorite thing about comm studies is this idea, the female gaze is something we talk about a lot, but part of the female gaze is also the effect it has on the body, right? Because as you mentioned, the workouts that these men are putting themselves through is not for the women.
No.
It is for the men.
Yes.
Right? And it is part of that male gaze.
And I kind of love that because it's for the male gaze, that fact that his clothes come off and Deadpool is the one that is like fully ogling him in that moment. I'm like, exactly. I'm like, this is not like, there are women who are like, oh, he looks good. But at the same time, they're like, huh, that's a lot.
It is the men who are looking at being like, I wish my body looked like that. Or if gay men are just like, I wish I had that on top of me.
Because because it's like that comedy of like, I feel like that's the thing, right? Is like you watch these Marvel movies and people are like, you know, who's like really like kind of sexy is like, they'll like name some random character and everybody's like, no, Thor. Like it'll be some dudes like, every woman wants a dude that looks like Thor. And then meanwhile, women are like, I think Timothée Chalamet is so handsome. And they're like, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. And you're like, no, really, we do. We genuinely are like,
I'm in that. No, you don't. You don't think Timothée Chalamet is handsome.
No, I'm in that camp too. Whenever women are like, he's hot, I'm like, you're lying to yourself.
But if we go back to Twisters, for example, it's just like, of course, Glenn is the one who's supposed to be hot. But I'm the one like, saying it's just like Brandon Perea or Anthony.
But I'll say the female gaze is Glenn Powell in a shirt in the rain.
Exactly.
Leaving, longingly staring at Daisy Edgar Jones. Like, that's the female gaze. It's like, oh no, we don't need to see his abs. We're just like, oh my God, he's so mysterious. Oh my God. Yeah. Wow. And like, it's the same thing where people are like, I think Ryan Reynolds is hot. Meanwhile, he is in character looking like a literal scrotum face. You see none of his body and women are like, I kind of think Deadpool is sexy. And you're like, no, you think the cleverness of the character is sexy.
Yes.
Because whenever Ryan Reynolds is like, I trained so hard for this, I'm like, and we never see it. What are you talking about?
Now, I got into an argument with Eddie about this, now that we're talking about Ryan Reynolds a little. Did they do some CGI on his face when he was Goodpool? Or is that like him with fillers and Botox now? Is that what his new face is?
I feel like it was a little bit of like post CGI to make him look like
I'm hoping so because it was a little off-putting. I'm just like, I know Ryan Reynolds would not look this. He looks a little too puffy
It does. It's just that Nice Pool. I was so happy when that character died. I was like,
oh, me too. Okay.
You guys are so bad.
Like he was an annoying character.
He was so annoying. When he held him up and he got riddled with bullets, I was like, that's what you deserve.
But for me, so here we go. I'm going to say it's just like, for me, honestly, so this movie was 2 hours long. It felt so much longer. And I think part of that is because of Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds is kind of driving me crazy.
Exactly. I wanted more.
I thought it flew by. Literally, I wanted
I wanted
when
more.
When we were at the end, I was like, wait. What's happening? No.
I thought And yet I thought when we got to the fight scene between him and Cassandra, I'm just like, all right, we're getting that towards the end. I'm just like, wait, there's still like a whole, there was still more. I'm just like, Jesus. I
was like, it could have kept going. I wanted more cameos. I wanted more jokes. Like the whole time I kept being like, well, where's this character?
I do not know why. Like, so this is where I can admit, I like Deadpool was never one of the movies that I liked. Like, they were never the ones I gravitated towards.
Okay.
So I was very much curious to see how they were going to like tie him into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? That's why I was kind of like, okay,
yeah.
I was gonna say, it's like, I'll wait until it's on TV, on streaming service somewhere, but then we decided to cover for the podcast.
Here's
and
the
here
thing.
we are.
I have a real controversial take, which is She-Hulk and Deadpool and Wolverine are the exact same project. The difference is She-Hulk has a woman as the lead.
But I loved She-Hulk.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I loved She-Hulk. Like, I loved the jokes of like Daredevil taking a walk of shame, like
in broad
all this
daylight,
stuff.
Yeah,
I was like, so I'm one of those people now that's like, I can't wait for a world where Deadpool and She-Hulk meet up and just keep breaking the fourth wall in a way that's like unnerving for the like that Carol Danvers is like, if you don't shut up, I'm gonna kill one of you.
Yeah,
that's actually a very, very interesting observation that I didn't think about. But you're right. Like She-Hulk. The She-Hulk that we got from the TV show and this Deadpool, not dissimilar and stuff. And
they're
I actually
so
could see
similar,
them.
like in an
Kiki.
aggressive fashion. Yeah, I could too. I could see them fully having a Kiki and her being like, "You're funny."
So I don't know why, but the She-Hulk breaking the fourth wall, I did not enjoy it.
Really,
I can respect.
I did not
that.
care for it. I didn't care for it. I was just like, didn't care for it. When Deadpool does it, I know that he's doing it because it's already part of the framework of this character, that this character in the comic books is self-aware, that he knows
he's
in
a comic,
character in the comic book. So it's just like, this is part of it.
I don't know.
I get that.
Did you love the sight gag as much as I did, that when he finds out he gets to join the MCU? Like, because that was a funny moment to me in the TVA where him and dude from Succession are like clearly talking about Deadpool joining the MCU, but they don't say the MCU. And he runs over to go talk to the camera and he's like, suck it, Fox, and he's like, I'm going to Disneyland and headbutts. But when the camera turns around, Wade is running from nothing.
He's
just running from the end.
Yes,
that was even funnier to me to imagine that when these characters break the fourth wall, because as a Family Guy fan, I think there was like a joke once where they acknowledged when a cutaway is happening that the person is just like frozen,
or
that they're just like staring into nothing,
or like on their phone and stuff.
So like there was something really funny to me about like everybody standing there looking from where Wade's coming, like, what the hell is he doing? Yeah. And then he's running back like, okay. And they're like, what the?
Those are my favorite kinds of jokes. The one where like the one where we're breaking the fourth wall, but we're breaking it even further.
Yes.
30 Rock did that in the final episode, right? Where Jenna's just like, it's just like, oh, I don't know who Mickey Rourke. I've never met Mickey Rourke, and it's just like,
or they did it in like, Inside Out 2. That moment when Pouchy is talking to the TV audience.
Oh, you're right, and they're like looking around,
and then
like,
they pan around, and he's just talking to the wall, really going insane. And he's like, "Do you know what we need, boys and girls?" And you're like,
"This joke is still fresh enough where it's still good, but it will." I guess it may not soon. It's on it's on last legs here. But no, that was a good visual gag. Yes, I remember it. Yeah, no, I was just, I don't know why. I think Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool is a little bit insufferable and annoying, but but he was so well balanced with Hugh Jackman's shockingly grounded performance.
You need Hugh Jackman. To be quite honest, Deadpool needed other superheroes because I think, and I don't know if you feel the same way, Eddie, like that's what makes it work in the comics, is that like everybody else is taking it seriously. They are in a comic. Yeah. They are saving the planet. And then there is this weird character that's like, hey, come here. I want to talk to you real quick. And so all those other movies to me were very like, oh, meta, ha ha ha, so funny. But what made this work is what you said, Rolando, which is there is a very grounded Hugh Jackman who is in an emotionally resonant movie, who's like talking about the past. You've got like Jen Garner is having her, all these people. And then you've got like a silly court jester who's like, hey, by the way, we know these movies have gotten silly. This is all really dumb. I know, but stick with us. It'll get better soon, kind of thing. Yeah. It felt like Kevin Feige got to like say stuff he wanted to say through Sean Levy and Ryan Reynolds.
It's interesting, right? Because like I feel like I should jive with Deadpool as a character because all my Dungeons and Dragons characters end up skewing like him anyway. And yeah, here I am saying it's just like I found him going.
You play this role all the time
without even realizing it.
Yeah. Well, you know what's funny is like I never thought I was going to go see the Deadpool movies. Right? Again, Marvel had started. MCU had begun. It was like, who cares? And I remember, I believe the first Deadpool came out when I was in business school. And there was a guy in my class who was like a fellow fanboy. And he goes, if you liked Van Wilder, go see this movie. And I was, because up to that point, I didn't get the appeal of Ryan Reynolds. And we had come off of Green Lantern. So I was like, I never want to see this man in another superhero film ever again on God's green earth. Yeah. And so my buddy genuinely was like, if you like Van Wilder, Ryan Reynolds gets to be Van Wilder again. And I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And
do
again,
people like Van Wilder that much?
Listen, I loved it. I was always like, what a silly, silly movie. Like, and so I went to see it. And again, it was one of those movies where when people were like, did you like it? I was like, you should not go see it. You're not going to like it. Friends of mine in class, like they were like, oh, okay. And I was like, yeah, don't go see this movie. You will be pissed and you'll be like, what the hell is this? What's going on? Why is this happening? Why is he talking about Hugh Jackman? Why is he like, whose balls did I have to suck to get my own movie? Like, you're not going to like
it. I love the way that you're so kind to your friends about this kind of stuff.
I refuse.
Because I was the opposite. I needed I want you to go see
you were like, I want the validation.
So I would be like, X-Men. I would describe it. So it's like a school. These kids are gifted, but they have some issues. You know, there's one guy that's trying to help them kind of adjust to society and stuff like that. It sounds great. Daredevil is this lawyer. He's blind. He's trying to help his community. He serves the community, low income families kind of scenario. It's like, that sounds great and inspiring.
Oh, I'm like baptism by fire. People will be like, do you think I'd like the X-Men? I'd be like, well, it's an allegory on the civil rights movement. So if that's not something you're into, say, get out of here. And they'd be like, but it seems interesting. I enjoy Alan Cummings. Don't go see it. Rebecca Romaine is in it, and you're not going to like it. And they're like, oh, okay. And I was like, and it starts with Nazis, because canonically, the character they're like, Jesus, MacKenzie, you're like concentration camps, the civil rights movement, the fight between Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. And I was like, I'm just trying not to lie to you.
All of which is 1,000,000% true, which is why I love
X-Men
97.
Exactly.
What I'm saying is like Eddie is so thoughtful to be like, I'll try to like make it relatable. Meanwhile, I'm like, let me talk you out of this. Let me keep it frank with you. Blade is a half vampire, half human who cuts people open and has sex in their blood. Now, do with that what you will. If you don't like it, I don't blame you. I barely like it. And they're like, oh, okay. I guess I won't watch that then. I'm like, don't do it. You're going to hate it. Like,
so all of this just reminded me of what I actually was most afraid of with this film. And that for me was, I had just come off of an X-Men 97 high.
Yeah.
That TV series was so wonderful. And I will keep praising Beau DeMayo's name, because it was just so well thought out.
It was so brilliant. It was I won't even get into that moment when they confront Magneto about like, what was it? They were like, you want a psychopath to be like, I want like basically it's like, I want like some separatist to be our president. And they're like, yeah, but you guys would pick a psychopath. And I said, ooh.
Yeah, no. I mean, but there were so many, and it was just wonderful. One of my favorite shows, I think, that came out this year. Because of running from that high, and also seeing Wolverine not come front and center, right? Because that's the one difference between that show and the 20th Century Fox film. Wolverine was always front and center any chance they could give him, because Hugh Jackman is a bona fide star by now. And granted, it was because of his
appeal.
And a lot of it was because of his performance as Wolverine. Now, that's why I was afraid. I'm just like, I don't know if I can go back to this, because I just got this. And yet, somehow, some way, I will say Hugh Jackman, again, was able to kind of just suck me in a little bit, right? He was just able, that performance that he gave as Wolverine is just like, I forgot how much I kind of already missed him since Logan ended.
Well, I think there's something, and I talk about this a lot with like friends and my family members who are like, what makes these movies? And I said, again, these movies started with people who were trying to cut their teeth, who were, so like Hugh Jackman he was in movies, but he wasn't a movie star. And the fact that Russell Crowe was like, hey, Fox, I know a brilliant young man who, like, if given the chance. And I think that was what was so funny, is that was the first movie where people were bringing gravitas to a superhero movie. Like that first X-Men movie where you have like Sir Ian McKellen.
Mhm.
And like you have these people like we are talking acting down at the same time as they're like, there are claws coming out of my hands. I'm making the sky rain. And you're just like James Marsden is like giving you everything with this like silly shield on his eyes. And you're
Patrick
like,
Stewart, just an
Patrick
iconic.
Stewart.
Sir Patrick Stewart is like chewing the like they are all ripping the scenery apart. And you're like, well, hot damn. And I think that's what's funny to me about what the MCU has become, right? It kicked off with blacklisted and blackballed Robert Downey Jr. Not another teen movie star, Chris Evans, some random Australian man. You know, it was like it started with that, and now it's like Oscar winner Lupita Nyong'o,
That's
like
right. Yeah.
Chadwick Boseman, you know, Oscar winner Brie Larson. Like now it's
The
these
director
like,
of what's it called? The director of the Eternals.
literally now it's these people who are like Mahershala Ali. Like you now have these people who do Marvel films being like, well, you know, I know he's disgraced, but like when Jonathan Majors was like, when I really thought about what a being that has lived all across space and time, what language does he speak? What cultures? And you're like, let me tell you what, RDJ wasn't doing any of this.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm a cocky son of a bitch who has billions of dollars. That's it. Great to see y'all. And so like there is that moment in a very silly movie with Ryan Reynolds being silly, where all of a sudden Hugh Jackman, like you said, is being so grounded and has so much respect and reverence for this character that you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is why you became Wolverine. This is why you've stayed Wolverine, because you love and respect this character so much that you treat it like it's Othello, like it's Hamlet. Like, got it.
And yeah, and that he does. And I think that was for me like the saving grace of this film. Like if you didn't have Wolverine for me, it probably would have been a big miss where, you know, I can only do so much of the R-rated jokes that were in the film. However, Wolverine kind of came and saved the day. My main question then becomes, it's just like so my other disappointment with this film was, I don't feel like it tied in. It didn't give me what I wanted, which was just like, how are we tying in the mutants really into the MCU?
It tied into nothing.
It didn't.
It tied
Nothing,
into
not at all.
It tied into. That's why I say it is a love letter to people that have been watching these movies forever.
Yeah.
It was basically to say like, hey, were you around since the Fox days, and you've always felt sad that they never wrapped up some of these stories that you felt like didn't get their due.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Yeah, for sure.
And then it was kind of like, and then we'll see you guys in Secret Wars. Like literally, that's the way it felt. Like they were like, hats off to you. We'll see you at Agatha All Along in October. It's been great. Bows out for everyone. Like,
yeah. Which is, I guess. So now my question for you guys here is: do you guys think? Well, now how does Marvel Cinematic Universe proceed now with the X-Men, like as a franchise? Right? We know we're getting them rebooted.
Yeah.
But the question is, we know technically now Logan is just hanging out somewhere.
Yeah.
He might even exist in the 616 universe, right? We don't know.
Yeah.
So the question is like, what do we do? Because like, if we're going to get Logan, how do we justify a new Logan? How do
I hope that they do similar to what they did with Spider-Man, which is like, we don't go back and do all the origin story stuff. Like, right? Like that's kind of what made the Tom Holland Spider-Man work, is we didn't do all the, he got bitten by a spider. We just got to the party.
Yep.
We just went ahead and we just made the assumption, like, pretty sure you know how we got here. Let's begin. I kind of hope that's the X-Men. Like, I hope we don't go back through the story of Magneto. It's like, oh girl, I can't take that trauma anymore. Like we do it every movie, and like Charles and Magneto knew each other. Girl, we know. So let's just get into it. Like let's just get to Beast and Photon wherever they are at the end of the Marvels, and let's just get into the story and just begin.
Yeah. And I mean, the beauty with the X-Men is just like that roster is so ginormous that you don't need to fall back on. I mean, they're the iconic Cyclops, Storm, Jean Grey, Wolverine. They're the iconic ones, but we don't need them.
This is why I tell people, like, the concept of the MCU is wild. When you, like, that's why I love when, like, fanboys are like, let's go back to the characters everybody knows. And I'm like, let's keep it a buck. Prior to Kevin Feige, none of us knew or cared about Iron Man, Thor. Like, when it came to Marvel IP, people were like, well, these are going to suck because they can't talk about... That's what I'm saying. It's like prior to that moment, everybody was like, well, these movies are going to suck because they can't talk about Spider-Man and they can't talk about the X-Men. So, like, if you remember, Eddie, when they bought in Wanda and her brother, when they brought in the Maximoff twins,
Yes.
people were like, well, this sucks. They can't even call them Marvels. They keep calling them advanced humans and like all this stuff. And so people were like, so those are the only two X-Men they can get access to? Is like, you know, it was kind of like, oh, okay, whatever. So like, I almost think it's funny that you have like, that now they're bringing them back, and it's kind of like they were like you said, Rolando, like they were the marquee party. They had the 9,000 pieces of IP. Like they had characters you had heard of and never heard of.
Mm-hmm.
So like the fact that they built that sucker off of damn near Squirrel Girl and Iron Man, it's like, I don't know how they pulled it off to convince the world that they were the more dominant cinematic, you know, IP over X-Men.
Yeah, no, it's true. It was a fascinating feat for Marvel for the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
I think it's even more fascinating when you think about the behind the scenes stuff, like how Disney, once they bought Marvel, you know, they were trying to really limit the Marvel comics of X-Men, right? Like trying to like, it's just like, until we get those rights, we're not putting any big storylines and stuff. Like we're focusing on our
idea
characters.
that like that they were like, the Avengers are Hawkeye, Natasha, like it was kind of like, oh wow, okay, and that's what makes it funny, is like these moments where it's kind of like, oh, you're like a superhero version of Hawkeye. I think that was a joke in the movie where it was like, where he was like, he says that to Gambit, where he's like, oh my god, you look like a superhero version of Hawkeye.
Yes.
And we're like, well, that's great. Poor Jeremy Renner catching strays for no reason.
So yeah, but I guess I'll pass it down to you guys. Like real quick thoughts overall. Movie, did you love it? Why should people watch? I mean, does this even qualify as a remake or reboot or revival? How about that also?
I say it's a reboot. It is a reboot of the X-Men. And you know my feelings. I'm on probably the opposite spectrum of Eddie. Loved it. Please don't go see it if you don't like these movies. Don't do this to yourself. You're going to be so confused and so mad you wasted your time. You are going to be like, haha, what? Huh? Like it is the movie. It's the one where I feel like I have to hand people homework for it to make sense.
Oh, yeah. So I'm for it. Go see the movie. But if you're going to see the movie, let me give a list of readings and movies you need to see beforehand.
Yeah, that was me sending my parents to Ant-Man Quantumania.
That's torture.
I said to my mom, I go, here's the thing. If you go see it, there is a syllabus, because you know my mother's whole rule for the MCU is she's like Issa Rae. I'm rooting for everybody black. She's like, oh, I'm gonna go see it. So like in this movie, I said, Mommy, this meets your criteria, but you are going to hate the rest of the movie. There is only 30 seconds that will be exciting to you. And she was like, all right, spoil it for me. And I said, okay, Wesley Snipes is in the film. And she goes, all right, yep, I don't need to see it. I don't need to watch an hour and a half worth of movie to go, there's that man MacKenzie loves so much. Good for him.
At least he was in it for not just all of like 5 minutes, maybe cumulative, but like he was in there for a little bit of the film.
Yeah, but I knew, like, I know her. I was going to get cussed out over text where she was going to be like, I can't believe you sent your father and I. You know I had to put your dad in this wheelchair. Get to the movie theater. Get him in the theater. Get him in the theater. And now you made your father and I go see this movie. We have no clue what was happening. I took a nap. Like...
So we're here recommending the movie, like whether or not people should go see it. Although, however, this movie is slated to cross that $1 billion threshold worldwide soon enough. Currently is at $850 million.
Did you know that it officially it is now the fastest growing R-rated movie and has knocked out The Passion of the Christ?
Oh, wow. Oh my God, another Jesus reference.
Yeah, I just thought that was hilarious. Like the funniest thing in the world to me, that they were like, that somebody was like, that movie has now made it to #1, beating The Passion of the Christ. And I was like, oh, guys, the amount of TikToks I saw of people being like, as a Christian, I left. I said, why were you there at an R-rated film to begin with?
That's true. Yeah. That's there you go. All right. You know, I think that's a lovely note to end this on, because I don't know if we get any better than that. This movie, you guys have won me over. I think, I ended up liking them. Look, the movie isn't bad. I will say, like, it's not, but it's for nerds. It is for nerds. And if you do like those cameos and stuff, definitely well worth it. I think it was the most touching part of the film was that send off for the 20th Century Fox at the end. Like it was just nice.
It was so cheesy and so lovely, and I loved it, and it was so cute. Mm-hmm. And then
God, it even had like a cheesy song too, wasn't it? Like
it was a full graduation. It was everybody's graduation montage, and I was like, this is really cute. Like
it was.
Because again, I remember when people were like, Michael B. Jordan's in a superhero movie. And I was like, and then I went to see it and I was like, I hope he never does another one of these. He's horrible. And then when he showed up as as Killmonger, I was like, oh, good. You redeemed yourself. That's been my case with like everybody who was in a Fox movie that has found their way. Oscar Isaac over there as Moon Knight. I'm like, oh, good. You got to redeem yourself.
After Apocalypse.
Yeah. So seeing all of these people again, I was like, oh, right. You guys were the thing I liked when you couldn't say you were nerd out loud because everybody was like, well, I'm going to shove you if you say something dorky. And you're like, all right, I've never heard of these people.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Really quick.
Yes.
Emma, anything on Emma Corrin's performance as Xavier's twin sister? By the way, Xavier has a twin sister.
Yeah, surprise.
Something. I didn't know what the hell Emma Corrin was doing. I love that for them. Fantastic. Great. Love what they were doing. What? The actual... I was so distracted by their long ass fingers. I said, get me out of this movie. I hate it. That was the only part where I genuinely thought, I don't like that. Stop putting your fingers in people's heads.
Yeah.
Cut it out.
Yeah.
And I kind of love, though, that then Deadpool was like, it's gross. I can taste her. She needs to wash her hands after she pees. Like, I thought that was great.
So I didn't know who this actor was because I asked Eddie at one point, and she was like, wait, is that Kirsten Stewart? Like, I just could not for the life of me. The bald head threw me off. But then Eddie reminded me, like, oh no, you saw her. She was in that show, A Death at the End of the World, A Murder at the End of the World.
A Murder at the End of the World.
And I was just like, oh no way, that's who they are. And
now, that was the one moment where I said, this is silly. When it was like, I'm Charles Xavier's twin sister. I said, oh,
yeah.
So we're doing silly things.
It was silly. It was soap opera-ish.
I truly had that moment of Tom Holland's character in Infinity Wars when they're all introducing themselves and he's like, I'm Doctor Strange. He goes, oh, so we're using silly names.
Yeah.
Okay, that was me. Like when Cassandra Nova came down those stairs, first of all, giggled to no end when Deadpool said, well, that's a little ableist and I don't think the woke mob is going to be happy about that.
That was a good joke.
That was silly. And then truly I went, oh, so we're doing silly stuff. We're doing silly accents and big, broad characters and long, silly cartoon fingers. And we're sticking our fingers up people's noses. And that is when I said to myself, I am never telling a single friend to see this. Doesn't like these.
All right. Well, how about you, audience? This movie is, making its way towards $1 billion. So you probably have seen it. So let us know what you think. Hit us up on our Instagram, Remakes, Reboots, Revivals. We love hearing from you. Feel free to email us. Our email is remakesrebootsrevivals@gmail.com. And Twitter, our X, is Remakes Podcast. And let us know what you guys thought. I promised that we would read some of your answers to our polls from social media, but we'll do that next week because we don't want to kill Mackenzie's time. But Mackenzie, thank you so much for being here. Where can people find you?
Yes, people can find me on Instagram at MissUSA2MBA. My podcast, The World Needs Nerds, is going to be coming back closer to the con, which is in October, to the LA Comic Con. So expect new episodes to drop. You can find me all over the socials. If you want to find me on Twitter, I just be yapping on there. MacKenzie Key, MAG. But yeah, come and find me in those places, and I'm happy to talk nerd stuff, and feel free to tell me why you don't think Blade is Marvel Daddy, and I will tell you why I think you're wrong.
Wesley Snipes is such an underrated actor.
He really is.
I loved him so much in Tu Wong Fu.
And, oh my God.
The way
is it
I talk
Noxema Jones?
Yes. The way I try to get people to understand of like, I want you to keep, I'm like, guys, Wesley Snipes, John Leguizamo, Patrick Swayze. I'm like, that would be like if right now, completely dead serious, no joking. It's not a parody. It's not meant to be funny. It's not meant to be insulting. Michael B. Jordan, like Henry Cavill, and like Brandon Padilla all are like, we're playing drag queens.
Yeah.
And like, and not as as truly as a respectful tribute to the, like, we would all be like, are they gay? What's happening? What's going on? So I don't think people understand. Like, I still 10 toes down will love Patrick Swayze because I'm like, the balls to do that movie, knowing that everybody's like, it's the Roadhouse guy, it's this, and to be like, yeah, and now I'm playing a drag queen. Not a man, not a what is it? the Marilyn Monroe movie.
Impersonator?
Not like, no, but meaning like not the Marilyn Monroe movie where it's like, I'm a straight man playing a drag queen pretending to be. No.
Right.
Playing
Yeah, no, it was like
gay man who is a drag queen.
Yep. It
Full
was
stop.
an incredibly respectful performance. And it's just like not one that when I saw the film, I was just like, I could not in a million years expect this. And
Fun
here
fact,
we are.
that
And
movie is what made me want to do pageantry.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. You know what?
I know,
get
it's
it.
wild to think.
I get it.
Yeah. I watched that movie and I was like, oh, anybody can be, like, I would always watch pageants and I truly was like, oh, anybody can be a queen. You just have to believe it. And I
Aw.
was like, cool. Okay. I think I could do this.
You took all the
That's
lessons.
what I'm saying.
did.
I did. I was
all the
like,
lessons for the movie.
listen, I was backstage with all those makeup artists and hairstylists at Miss USA just kikiing. And at one point, one of them fully understood what I was saying. So when I came off stage one day and I was like crying, he was like, little Latin boy in drag, why are you crying? And I was like, thank you. I was like, thank you for understanding what's happening. And that made me giggle. Thanks.
It's like you see
Yeah,
me.
I was like, we get each
You see
other.
me.
Oh, man. All right. Well, that is the perfect note to end this episode on. So, guys, until next time,
Stay on original.